Bob Herbert's op-ed.tv is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation with the support of Ann Ulnick. Hi, I'm Bob Herbert. Welcome to op-ed.tv. We're going to start with something a little different this week. Watch. Those talented and delightful young people are members of Jazz Power Initiative, an innovative organization that is helping to keep the magic of jazz alive by bringing it to a whole new generation of players and listeners. With me to talk about this wonderful project is Eli Yamin, the co-founder and artistic director of Jazz Power Initiative, and Angie Pastor, a high school senior who is a singer and will soon be attending our very own City College of New York. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you guys? Thank you for coming in.
Great to be here, Bob.
So, Eli, let's start with the obvious question. What is Jazz Power Initiative?
Well, Jazz Power Initiative is a nonprofit organization that transforms lives through jazz arts education. We ignite the power of jazz to foster creativity, collaboration, leadership, and we find that it's something that's really needed today because our young people are getting further and further away from the music, and it's such a powerful resource for them to shine.
So how do you, how do you get youngsters into this program, and then once you get them in, what do you do with them? What do they do?
Well, right now we run a Jazz Power Youth Workshop at the United Palace of Cultural Arts in Washington Heights, and it's a 12-week training program where students come from all over the city to study with us and spend 3.5 hours learning about jazz piano, voice, dance, and theater. We also train teachers at our Summer Jazz Arts Institute at Lehman College, which is coming up July 11th, 12th, and 13th.
A little plug there.
And sure, and we do performances throughout the city with some of the young people who have come through our training program over the last few years, including Angie Pastor.
So, Angie, how did you first hear about Jazz Power?
Well, I just got lucky because my dad was connected to Eli a long time ago, and he saw something on Facebook about jazz, and he knows that I love jazz, so he just contacted Eli, and then the last 4 years of my life have just been this organization.
You loved jazz before you became involved with Jazz Power.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how did that happen? Isn't that unusual?
Yeah, definitely.
Nowadays? So how'd you get drawn into jazz?
I would just, my dad would, he would have Vince Guaraldi on in the background.
I love
and I would
Vince
just hear
Guaraldi, the
Me
Vince
too.
Guaraldi trio.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was just very small things. My family would just have the music on in the background, and I was drawn to it. And then I would listen to it on my own. I would go on Pandora and just listen to all the artists.
I think that's really fantastic, but I'm a little bit stunned and surprised because I've been worried about jazz actually sort of falling below the radar, that young people are not listening to it in the same numbers anymore, and so I'm really happy to hear about Jazz Power because it's bringing it back, and as I mentioned in the intro, bringing it to a whole new generation.
Mm-hmm.
So Eli, you've had an extraordinary career yourself as a pianist, a composer, an educator, a producer. Can you kind of in a capsule way tell us about your career?
Well, I tell you, I was very fortunate at a young age to meet some tremendous mentors, including Walter Perkins, a great drummer from Chicago, and he really inspired me to take up jazz and blues as music that's about making people feel good. And so everything I've done, from State Department tours for cultural diplomacy to jazz musicals for young people to founding Jazz Power Initiative, it's all revolved around that idea that we can, as musicians, take stock of this treasure, this great treasure, American art form of jazz and blues, and offer it to our communities in a way that brings people together from different backgrounds and that really celebrates life and that doesn't look away from the hardships of life, but instead seeks to transform them.
Eli, you have, I can tell in the few times that I've spoken with you, you've placed a big emphasis on blues, which you just mentioned. Why blues and jazz are two separate forms of music, but they're sort of intimately linked. So one, why has blues become so important to you? And try to explain to us, if you can, the link between blues and jazz.
Well, the blues is where it begins. As the great Willie Dixon from Chicago and by way of Mississippi said, the blues is the roots, everything else is the fruits.
The roots and the fruits.
Indeed. And so we find this, you know, blues is the heart of the expressive power of jazz. It's where we learn to phrase our melody. It's where we learn to find a tremendous range of emotions. We can scream, we can cry, we can slide and scoop our melodies, do things that just never happened in Western music before. The blues from African American culture gives us tremendous tools to be ultra modern, contemporary, and have an American flavor. So it's just absolutely indispensable, and we use it all the time in our education, in our art, in our performances. It's really the part that brings everyone to the table to listen to whatever else you got.
And can you talk a little bit about the relationship between blues and jazz?
Well, all the early blues, or all the early jazz musicians like Louis Armstrong, like Duke Ellington, Sidney Bechet, they loved the blues. Charlie Christian, you know, they were steeped in it. Benny Goodman, you know, so when they made melodies, they said, whoa, wow, hey, hey. They had to have that, you know, and that's what the audiences longed for. It gave them this connection. So as a jazz musician, I constantly go back to that source. And I got to know Amiri Baraka when I was a teenager. And of course, he's the author of the great book, Blues People.
Yeah, he was a big-time student of blues.
Yes, and he really showed me through theater and through different art forms how you can take this aesthetic of the blues and transfer it into jazz, but also across modality.
Right. Now, Angie, you're a singer. We found out how you got interested in jazz, but did you always know that you could sing? I always thought I could sing and then found out I couldn't, but you apparently, your experience has been different.
Well, I was singing when I was very little, but I don't think I knew that I actually had any talent in it until around middle school. But I love to do it, so I just kept at it.
So what kind of songs or what kind of music do you sing?
Jazz.
Jazz songs?
Yeah, all jazz.
And you love it?
I do.
So I mentioned that you're going to be going to City College. Will you be pursuing a musical career, or are you going to go in a different direction? You are?
Yeah, I'm going to be a jazz vocal performance major.
Oh my goodness, that is so cool. So one of the things I'm curious about is, do you get nervous when you're about to perform in front of an audience, or are you one of those folks where it just seems completely natural to you and you're basically relaxed?
I think everybody has a little bit of nerves before they go on stage, but I also do, I do chambers at my school, I do classical music, and I find that singing jazz with just like a small group of kids is so much less nerve-wracking than singing in like a huge classical choir and like every voice having to like be matching and have like the perfect diction. Like jazz is just so free.
Right.
So when I get on stage and I'm singing jazz, it's nowhere near as nerve-wracking as it would be with any other form of music. You
mentioned the Vince Guaraldi trio. Do you have other favorites, and were there singers that have influenced you or that you've modeled yourself on?
Ella Fitzgerald.
Everybody always
Yeah.
says Ella.
Because she's just the best.
She is a fantastic, now I'm going to get in trouble. Mayor Dinkins once got on my case for saying this. I am a big fan of Ella Fitzgerald, and I acknowledge how phenomenal a singer she was. I've never heard Ella sing a wrong note, you know. But I think about Sarah Vaughan and I think about Dinah Washington, and I just think that there's more soul there. But I feel like I'm out in left field. People disagree. Do you guys disagree with me on that?
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's definitely some truth in that. And I mean, I think Ella has a lot of soul, but other singers do too. And like I listen to Norah Jones too. She's a more modern, and I love her music. And I think I model myself more after Ella and Norah Jones, but I feel like I listen to a lot of male jazz singers more, like Bobby Darin, Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole is one of my favorites.
Eli, do you have favorite singers?
Well, all the ones you just mentioned.
We just ran through the
repertoire.
repertoire.
So many. I love Abby Lincoln. And I
oh
got
my
to know
goodness,
her.
right.
I got to know her a little bit.
She was married for a while to Max Roach, right?
She sure was.
Yeah.
And her career is just so multifaceted. And when I got to know her in the 90s, she had started writing a whole new batch of songs, which became part of her recorded work. And I used to love that album, People in Me, that she made in the 70s with Dave Liebman on saxophone, and Miles Davis was the producer. And she always has spoken to my soul.
She was a fabulous singer and composer, as you point out. Now, you guys do musicals. When Jazz Power does musicals, what are they?
Well, we have 3 musicals that we've published. The first one, Noah's Ark, which is about climate change and learning how to work with people different than you. The second one, Holding the Torch for Liberty, which is about the culmination of the women's suffrage movement. And the third one we've just released recently is Message from Saturn, which is a space odyssey where 3 kids from New York City go into outer space to discover how to play and sing the blues to save the world from destruction.
The blues in outer space. I love it.
So it's a big influence from Sun Ra and Mary Lou Williams.
Oh, really?
Yes. So each of our musicals was inspired in some way by the creative style of a jazz artist or a couple jazz artists, such as Mary Lou, such as Sun Ra or John Coltrane, or Thelonious Monk. But the story itself is not necessarily about jazz. The stories are stories that are relevant to young people, that grab their mind and imagination from a story angle, but then the young people come into these musicals and they get to know jazz as a way of telling a story.
Right.
And in this way interact with the art form that I feel can be more indelible and really have a long-lasting impact on their life.
Angie, have you been in any of the musicals?
Yeah, we do little bits and pieces of the different musicals in our performances.
Your peers, your friends, your classmates, people you know who are roughly your age, how many of them are into jazz at all?
Not a lot. I've met almost all my jazz friends through this program, and I've actually become very close with them. They're probably my best friends.
Right.
But yeah.
So do you feel that the ones who are not into jazz, do you feel that they're missing out on something?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You do?
Yeah, but I'm very vocal about the fact that how much I love jazz and what I do with jazz, and I think that I've actually brought it into the lives of some of my friends a little bit, which is really, really cool.
That would be excellent. That'd be great. So you got to proselytize her.
Absolutely. Well, we try to foster that, you know,
Right.
because we need more young people spreading this message and sharing this treasure with their peers. I think, you know, there's a lot of discussion today about teenagers with a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and we need more opportunities for teachers, for young people to find artistic expression as a way of releasing some of the heavy emotions they're dealing with. And
Right.
jazz is perfect for that.
So where do you guys perform, and what's a typical Jazz Power performance like?
Well, we have a couple performances coming up. On June 24th, we'll be doing our Jazz Power Youth Workshop showcase at the National Jazz Museum in Harlem on 129th and Lenox, and that's a wonderful venue for us. Sometimes we do intergenerational jazz jams at that location. But we'll be there June 24th at 3 o'clock, and then on June 26th, we'll be over at United Palace of Cultural Arts in their magnificent foyer, and it's this historical theater in Washington Heights, and we'll be doing the Jazz Power Youth workshop showcase there.
One of the things you seem to have emphasized in Jazz Power is that jazz is not just about the music, that it's also about dance and about movement and about storytelling, which would seem, when you think of it that way, to make jazz an even richer experience. How did you get to that place?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, Amiri Baraka was a big influence,
Right.
and I got to know him as a college student. But I also grew up going to the Crossroads Theater in New Brunswick, one of the premier black theater companies of the U.S., and saw Ain't Misbehavin', Bubbling Brown Sugar, but also plays that integrated music and movement and a certain way of moving, a certain way of seeing. And that had a great impact on me. And when I got to know Duke Ellington's music and saw all the stories in his song, it made me want to carry on this tradition of jazz as a way of expressing stories and of utilizing dance, which jazz literally came up with. And we have an amazing teacher, Mickey Davidson, who's worked with Saki Shange and Sun Ra and Cecil Taylor, and she is our lead dance teacher now, so that our students are having this experience of training the voice, and they learn technique, they learn style, and then also training their bodies so they can move in the spirit of jazz.
Angie, what have you liked best about your experience with Jazz Power? Because you've been with them for a while now.
I've loved every minute. I've loved the fact that I've made so many wonderful friends, and we have so many experiences. Like we performed at Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola, Jazz at Lincoln Center,
Wow.
and the National Jazz Museum in Harlem, and it's just always such a wonderful time.
Do you have, I'm sure you do, but what are some other kinds of music besides jazz that you like?
I love folk music.
Folk music, which is not unrelated to jazz, because blues is a folk music, right? So, yeah, I think folk music is great too. So what do you, you know, we mentioned the young people who are your friends who are not part of Jazz Power initiative. What are they listening to?
Mostly like rap and pop music.
Rap is still the big deal?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I don't get it either.
I'm going to stay off of that subject because I really will get in trouble, except to say that I'm just not really that big of a fan of rap.
It's interesting though, when we talk to some of the early rap artists from the Bronx, some of them like Rakim have been saying that, you know, when they were coming up, they were looking forward to getting an instrument in 5th grade. And then they got to 5th grade and they took the instruments out of the schools in the Bronx.
Oh.
So they took a turntable and made it into an instrument. So it's really amazing to think if we still had music programs in the Bronx, what kind of saxophone solos would be on rap records today?
Well, how about that? That's a great thought.
So, you know.
Well, along those lines, though, you've made it clear that you think it's important to bring Jazz Power Initiative into communities of color, into poor communities. Why those communities specifically?
Well, it seems like every time I turn around, very well-meaning folks are starting a new music program in a community that doesn't have one with a European-based model, such as an orchestra program. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but we have Duke Ellington, we have Mary Lou Williams, we have Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald. We have great heroes and sheroes from African-American backgrounds, Latinos, Tito Puente, Mongo Santa Maria, Celia Cruz. Why not lift those folks up as the models for communities of color? Why not celebrate those traditions? Because those traditions more accurately reflect who we are as Americans, and I think really have the capacity to connect students to a great treasure of their heritage.
If you, Angie, if you were trying, I keep going back to the subject of young people, and it's almost for selfish reasons, because I want this music to live and to thrive, and to see what new forms of jazz come about. I mean, when I was born, I used to call myself the son of bebop, because when I was like an infant, bebop was making its presence known, which was a radical change in jazz music at the time, and jazz was always evolving. So if you were to tell young people who are not listening to jazz why you think they would enjoy it or what's good about it, what would you say? Tough question, but give it a shot.
I feel like it just touches the soul. I mean, it's just, anytime that anyone's going through something difficult, at least for me, it's like whenever I'm listening to jazz or I'm playing jazz, I just feel so much better. Like sometimes we have to get up for performances. I had to get up for a performance recently at 8 in the morning to come on the train here, and I was...
You make that sound like it's really early.
Well, it is.
To a teenager.
And I was all crabby. But then we started performing, and it was like, it was amazing. I felt so much better, and I got to listen to Antoinette Montague, like, pour her soul into a song, and it just made me want to do this forever.
Wow. That was in the community. That was at Car Free Day, New York City, sponsored by City Council member Rodriguez, who's been a great friend, and we were performing on the streets in Washington Heights.
Is that right?
Really cool,
That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
If you could wave a magic wand in terms of your career now, obviously it's really early. You haven't started college yet, but fast forward. What are the things, if you could wave a magic wand, that you would want to happen with you in your career? What's some of the goals you'd love to achieve?
Well, I want to continue this mission to keep jazz alive, especially with young people. So I would love to teach eventually, as like when I moved forward in my career, but I would also just love to have a jazz band and tour and just bring the music to all kinds of people that need it.
Well, that's the way it used to be, right? So you would be a singer who would be the leader of a jazz band. That would be fantastic. Well, we've got all kinds of possibilities here.
Yes,
that could be a music.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a movie. So, Eli, go back to your earliest years. What drew you to the music? Why did you become so fascinated with jazz?
Well, my first experience was I lived in a house in New Jersey that was right next to another house, and every night the man I had a piano next to my window, and the man who lived in the house next door, he had a piano next to his window, and he used to come down, turn on a light, put up the music, and play this sound. It was Ragtime by Scott Joplin, and that was in the early 70s when there was this ragtime revival, and I was just mesmerized. I was like, what is that magic in that? And meanwhile, my parents, they were mostly into classical music, but they also liked folk, and they used to have a reel-to-reel tape of Elizabeth Cotton, this folk blues singer from North Carolina, who sang Freight Train and all these old gospel and folk songs. And that music just got in my bones and wouldn't let go, and it drove me to learn more, to seek out teachers, and to find the source best I could, and to develop my skills so that I could be part of this magic.
Well, I think it's wonderful that both of you have been drawn to this music, and you're keeping that magic alive. We've run out of time, which is a shame. Eli Yamin, Angie Pastor, thanks so much.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a moment with a final word. Payday lending is one of the most exploitive, harmful, and often sinister legal industries that we have in this country. It is today's version of the old mobbed-up, thuggish loan sharks. Payday lenders prey on the poor and the ignorant, people who find themselves week after week and month after month in the most precarious of economic circumstances. These legal loan sharks get away with charging their victims interest as high as 400% on an annual basis, and the most unscrupulous among them manage to extract an annual percentage rate that is much higher, 800, 900, 1,000%. It's a ghoulish business, which is why it is so disgusting that the new director of the Federal Trade Commission's Consumer Protection Unit, which is supposed to protect the economic interests of all consumers, including the poor, is a lawyer who defended a corrupt payday lending service founded by a convicted racketeer. There is no end to the perfidiousness of the Donald J. Trump administration. The lawyer is Andrew Smith, and his career was built defending not only payday lenders, but banks and giant corporations whose interests are the opposite of the consumers Smith is now supposed to be protecting. Senator Elizabeth Warren put the matter plainly when she said it's outrageous the FTC would pick the lawyer for a criminally convicted racketeer payday loan company as consumer protection chief. The agency should pick someone with a track record of protecting consumers, not companies that cheat people. The senator's right, of course. It is outrageous, but sadly, it's par for the course with this administration. That's all for now. See you next time.